Today, with our allies, we embark on an operation of unparalleled importance to establish a beachhead at Normandy and roll back the German aggression that has terrorized Europe for the past 5 years. We are all that separates the world from darkness. This, so much more than a chance to be heroes in our own lifetimes. If we prevail, our triumph will be etched into the hearts and minds of a grateful world for untold generations. I'm talking about glory, gentlemen. True glory.
Colonel Davis sure can give a nice speech. His pep talk reminded me of the one Coach Johnson gave us on our Thanksgiving Day game versus Austin. I'm sure you remember we lost that game by 42 points. Always looking over Pearson's shoulders, Lieutenant Turner. He's got him on a tight leash, but if Pearson breaks free, we'll all get bit. Ever since I could hold a rifle, I wanted to be like you, Paul. You've always been a tough act to follow, but I'm sure gonna try. It's now or never.
Hey, I wish I was coming home to her.
Yeah, just wait till we hit Paris.
Seems like a long way off. Remember, no digging in at the shore. Gotta advance. You need to stay low and do not bunch up. Stick to your training, you're gonna make it through. I'm proud to lead you fellas into battle. Anytime, anywhere.
Everybody ready? Here we go!
Off the ramp! There's no cover!
That was an order! Drop it!
Over the side! Get your head down and keep moving! Daniel! On me! Take the Bangalore and get to the seawall! Back to the bunker!
Ramp on the front of that boat dropped right in front of you, and you knew for certain you were not going to make it out of this one. June 6, 1944, thousands of young men faced that exact moment. They weren't guaranteed survival. They weren't even guaranteed success. So, why did they step forward anyway? Today, we're standing here at the D-Day Memorial in Bedford, Virginia, and we're going to answer that question. You hear that? That's the echoes of freedom. What's up, historian? Smith McNeill here. Today we're standing in Bedford, Virginia at the United States D-Day Memorial. And this is such a fantastic sight. I'm going to step over here kind of to the side so you can see what's behind me. But they've got this set up as what the invasion might have looked like with monuments. A monument of one of the landing crafts that landed on the beaches of Normandy. Soldiers resting up on the beach. And the reflection pool down below, you can see the water sprouts shooting up to imitate or simulate the bullets hitting the water as these soldiers rushed in on the beaches to attack France and win it back from Nazi control. And this is a place that honors one of the most important days and costly days in American history, or modern history. I'm having to show some reverence. I don't know if you can see or not. So I got these amazing shoes. I'll try to throw up a picture if I can remember. But these amazing shoes from Born Primitive, the special D-Day edition. It just seems fitting to wear those to this site today. So super excited to be here and cover this on Echoes of Freedom. So, June 6, 1944, D-Day. The Allied invasion of Normandy. The moment the Western Front of World War II was opened, and the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. The plan was called Operation Overlord. In the intro, you saw the giant monument, a memorial above me that says Overlord, for the Overlord campaign. D-Day wasn't just a battle, it was part of a massive operation called Operation Overlord. This was years in the making. Allied leaders, including Dwight Eisenhower, had to plan one of the most complex operations in military history. They needed to transport supplies and troops across the English Channel, land them in heavily defended beaches, supply them once they arrived, and push inland to a fortified enemy, against a fortified enemy. But before that could even happen, they had to fool the Germans. I keep drifting way more and more over as I'm talking. I'm trying to leave this where you can see, and I may actually cut here in just a moment and go to the other side so you can see what's over here behind the camera. And it's kind of hard for me to hear what I'm talking about because there's a waterfall right behind the cameras. That's all I'm hearing in the background. But let's talk about the deception for a moment. Operation Fortitude. The Allies launched a massive deception campaign known as Operation Fortitude. They created fake armies, complete with inflatable tanks, dummy aircraft, and false radio signals to convince the Germans the invasion would happen at cost of Lucalis, not Normandy. Even General George S. Patton was placed in charge of this phantom army to make the deception believable. And it worked. When D-Day came, many German forces were positioned in the wrong place. So we'll talk more on the story in just a moment as we rotate on around. I do want to take a quick moment and show you what I'm looking at here as we look. So I'm going to show you kind of what's behind the camera here. Behind the camera, we've got a monument of the men scaling the wall. This is such a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And you can see on the plaque, it reads, some visitors viewing the 20-foot wall as the 20-foot tall bronze relief mounted on the wall below the Overlord Arch might suppose that the sculpture pays particular tribute to the members of the 2nd Ranger Battalion who ascended the cliffs of Point du Hoc. Such a conclusion, though, was reasonable enough in itself, fails to acknowledge the piece's broader intentionality, which the sculptor establishes with the title Scaling the Wall. This dramatic grouping is visually linked with the Rangers' inspiring deeds at Point du Hoc, is figuratively connected to the Allied forces' no less inspiring surmounting of Adolf Hitler's impregnable fortress of Europe. Collectively, on behalf of all the participants in D-Day, June 6, 1944, the four figures portrayed here strikingly personify the hallmark qualities of valor, fidelity, and sacrifice, qualities that both characterize the D-Day story and inform this monument. Here in behind, kind of where I was standing, it's kind of the grand assault they call it. You can see the water shooting up through the sky. The soldiers storming the beaches, got one there in the water. The giant pieces of metal they use to keep boats from coming in any closer. So this is kind of what we're looking at. We're going to be back in just a moment. We're going to cut to when we get on around this memorial and we can hear a little better and continue the story of D-Day and why this site is so sacred and such an honor to be here. As I just do one more quick pan across the beach. All right, so we're here on the other side. We're going to continue the story we talked about just up there on the little bridgeway as we were talking about D-Day here. So the night before, there was an airborne assault that took place to try and get things in order for the invasion on June 6th. Before the first boats hit the beaches, thousands of Allied paratroopers were already in the fight. In the early hours of June 6, over 13,000 American paratroopers from the 101st and 82nd Airborne Divisions dropped in behind enemy lines. Their mission: secure bridges, disrupt German defenses, and create chaos. Many of these guys landed off target. You have to remember, this is before we have modern radar and GPS, so they were trying to eyeball it based off maps in the pitch black. So a lot of these troopers didn't even make it to the proper rally points. Some landed miles from their units, but small groups came together and continued to fight anyway. One paratrooper later said, "We didn't know where we were, but we knew what we had to do." So as far as the landings go, and you can see the landing laid out here behind me in this scene they have built up for the memorial and the monument. At dawn, the main invasion began across 5 beaches. The United States took control of Utah and Omaha. The British took control of Gold and Sword, and Canadian forces had Juno Beach. Each one had its own challenges, but Omaha was the deadliest. There, American troops faced high cliffs, fortified bunkers, machine gun nests, and heavy resistance. Units were pinned down, landing craft were destroyed, men were cut down in the water, yet they continued to push forward. The Germans had filled the beaches with deadly obstacles such as these giant pieces of metal to stop landing craft, barbed wire, landmines, anything they could do to steel hedgehogs, wooden stakes, mines under the water to add to that list, just to try to slow down any assault or deter any assault. But the Allies came prepared with innovation. They used specialized tanks, engineers to clear the obstacles, and eventually built mulberry harbors, or artificial ports that allowed supplies to flow into Normandy after the invasion. This wasn't just brute force, it was planning, technology, and determination. So what was the cost? We got to know, what's the cost of all this? Over 4,400 Allied troops were killed, thousands more wounded or missing, but they had done the impossible. They established a foothold in Nazi-occupied Europe, and from that foothold they began to push toward victory, and a year later, World War II would come to an end. So, back to Bedford. Why is this place so important? Well, that brings us here. In this small town, 44 men went to Normandy. 19 of those 44 were killed on D-Day. That's one of the highest per capita losses of any town in America, and why the monument was placed here. The Bedford Boys represent something larger, that global events are made up of individual sacrifices. Small towns, families, lives changed forever. So, D-Day wasn't just a military operation, it was a moment where everything was on the line. Failure could have prolonged the war or changed its outcome entirely. But success meant hope, it meant liberation, and it meant that the tide had turned. So remember, historians, D-Day reminds us history isn't just written by plans or strategies. It's written by the people who stepped forward onto those beaches, even when the odds were against them. And here in Bedford, that sacrifice is remembered each and every single day. We're going to go out and we're going to explore a lot more of the area. There's a lot more to see. They've got different stuff set up to look at. So I'm going to go around and do some exploring. I'll have some pictures posted up on Facebook that you should have seen by now. If not, check it out on the Echoes of Freedom Facebook page. And we will see you all on the next adventure.